Hi, everyone. Welcome to Entertainment Evolved, Cultural Shifts and Monetization Through Gaming. We're going to do some quick intros, and because we only have 30 minutes, but we have a lot to say, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. So I'll start. Hello, I'm Heather Healy. I'm the Vice President of Brand Strategy at Super League. We're a company that specializes in building immersive 3D environments. We do advertising that drives traffic to those environments. We create products that are featured in those environments, and we also help brands create the strategy that connects what they're doing online and virtually to what they're doing in real life. We worked with everyone from Marvel to Mattel, about 130 different campaigns in 2023 alone, and we're really excited about where the space is going. So what I'm also going to do is talk about one stat or fun fact, and because I know that these guys are full of some great statistics and knowledge, we'll ask them to contribute something too. So my fun fact or stat is about the sheer reach of immersive platforms. Young people are spending more time on Roblox and Fortnite than they are on TikTok and YouTube combined. That's a huge stat. In Roblox alone, there are over 71 million daily active users, and each of those users is spending more than 2.5 hours per day on the platform. That was a couple stats rolled into one, but I'll pass it over to Felix.
Hey, can you hear me? So I'm Felix Lahaye. I am the founder of United Esports. I've been in the media and marketing side of the world for my whole career. United Esports is a gaming culture company. We make shows, we make marketing, we make experiences, we have venues, a few things that's supposed to be fun. I think they're fun, so we'll accept that as truth. Before that, I founded a company called Open Influence, which was the first influencer marketing company. So a lot of what we've done or I've done throughout my career has been at the intersection of culture, at first with millennials and now in the gaming world, with Gen Z. My stat is similar to yours, so I wish we had compared stats. My favorite stats about gaming is that 52% of Gen Z spend more time in gaming culture than actually in games. That means watching Twitch, engaging with music, fashion, etc. So the point is that gaming culture, in the same way that rock and roll culture in the 80s and 90s was an overall youth phenomenon, is overall mainstream youth culture today.
Thank you. Greg.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Greg Selko. I'm the CEO and co-founder of XSET. XSET is a gaming, lifestyle, brand, and media company. Just like, United, we approach gaming as a lifestyle and as a culture first. What that means is just like every generation, and this is certainly true with Gen Z, there are certain cultural movements and certain media phenomenon that moves the culture, and gaming is now the epicenter of youth culture. So we basically create culture, we amplify culture, and we connect people who are interested in gaming culture. I didn't give you a stat.
Okay. Yeah, stat next.
Fun fact time. There's 3 billion people worldwide that game. A lot of them are not hardcore esports fans. They're all different backgrounds, all different races. 45% of them are women. So, gaming is basically the biggest form of entertainment in the world now, and about a third of the world is, or probably more and rapidly growing, consider themselves either gamers or into gaming.
Thanks, Greg. And last but not least, Ryan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Johnson, the founder and CEO of Community Media. Our company, we're a media company based in Atlanta, Georgia, that's focused on connecting diverse audiences to brands through advertising campaigns around gaming and anime. So my statistic that I always say is our stat that got us started on this journey is we learned that 83% of African American youth play video games on a weekly basis, but the industry itself is only representative of 4% of that demographic. So everything we do is around building programs, media campaigns, live events, virtual events that ultimately help connect underrepresented communities to these spaces around gaming and anime, and we're doing that through media campaigns and advertising campaigns as well.
Don't forget your fun fact or your stat, Ryan.
That was my fact.
That was it.
Yeah, so like that's the stat that actually got us started. 83% of Black youth play. But when you look at the industry, when you look at who makes up a lot of the spaces, you do not see a lot of representation. So our entire space is around amplifying and giving a voice to underrepresented creators and pairing creators in different programs with brand campaigns and advertising dollars. So that's like our fun fact that actually got us started on this entire journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. So I think it's important to know where we are now to kind of talk about the history. So let's talk from a really high level about the history of gaming and culture. So Greg, how have you seen gaming culture evolve over the past 10 years to where it is now?
Yeah, I mean, to me, gaming culture is culture. It's everything. It's driving pop culture. My background is I had started, out of college, and while I was in grad school, I started a e-commerce site called Karmaloop. We were the first sort of streetwear e-commerce site really to scale. We were the first e-commerce site to have a YouTube channel. And really one of the reasons why we were successful is that we were of the culture we were selling to, right? The product, the brands, people like Pharrell Williams was our creative director. And we touched culture. And streetwear culture was a huge influence, and still is, but it was sort of an up and coming thing. And after that business, we did over $1 billion in revenue, under my tenure. After that business, I really loved that like spark and that excitement and that like first sort of, being at the forefront of new things and new culture. And I was introduced to the guys at FaZe Clan, when I was living out in LA. And, FaZe Clan, if you guys don't know who they are, they've had some trouble, lately, and that was after me. We were doing great when I was there. But, basically there was a group of young guys who were starting, creating content around gaming, but it also involved fashion. It also involved music. And they had millions and millions of followers and millions of views on YouTube, on Twitch. TikTok wasn't really a thing yet. And I loved it. I saw the same sort of things that you see in punk rock, or you see in skateboarding, or you see in, other, youth cultural movements, that gaming was connecting people. It wasn't necessarily, there was this element that was hardcore esports, which is cool, and it's still a thing, but it was much bigger than that. It was really about learning about new music, learning about entertainment, learning about what their friends were interested in, meeting people. It was a social network in a lot of ways, and it was driving their decisions, around what consumer brands they liked, what product they wanted to buy, what they thought was cool. And so to me, I loved it. And so I was sort of hooked at that point, and this was about 6 years ago or 7 years ago now. And so I jumped in, and that was my first foray into gaming culture. And since then, to me, it's so exciting because even, streetwear culture was very much like a one-dimensional or two-dimensional sort of way of touching people, whether it was direct to consumer, meaning, and I don't mean in terms of e-com, I mean in having bricks and mortar and out in the world. And then you had digital, but you didn't have the immersiveness of gaming, right? You have both of those things with gaming, plus you have this whole idea that there's a whole digital world you can inhabit. So to me, has infinitely more ways that you can reach culture and build culture. So, that was my first foray into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're talking about the evolution of gaming culture, there's also been an evolution of the audience that we're targeting. Greg, you mentioned that there are 3 billion gamers in the world. 1 billion of them game on a daily basis. So as we're talking about the audience, what you were talking about, Ryan, in terms of the diversity of the audience, can you talk a little bit about who the gaming audience is and maybe ways that other brands or companies here that are interested in targeting the gaming audience, how can they create authentic campaigns that, are authentically for diverse audiences?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a great question. So from our perspective, what we did is we took a huge step back. So when we started our organization, it was going back in 2019, and there really one important statistic. So Georgia and we're based in Atlanta. Georgia was one of the first 5 states in North America to ever launch varsity high school esports. So under the Georgia High School Sports Association, varsity high school esports is a legitimate sport in the state of Georgia. It started back in 2019, 2018. What we recognized very early on is that the titles that were played at the state level were all PC-based games. So inadvertently, the state alienated all of the schools that couldn't afford a computer lab in order to now participate in the gaming space. Going into 2020, collegiate esports was blowing up. there were over 250 predominantly white institutions or traditional state colleges and universities that had gaming programs, scholarships, or varsity teams. At the same time, there were 0 historically black colleges or universities in the country that had any gaming programs. So what we looked at is that gaming, as it kind of took off, right, it started at the professional level, at the content level, but we really wanted to have purpose and help establish pipelines along this journey. So what our first effort actually was under community media is that we launched the nation's first gaming league for all of the historically black colleges or HBCUs in North America. So now that is actually like our company's claim to fame. We have 50 universities that play in a 22-week long season. We have brands that support it like Verizon, Discover, Nike, Hot Pockets, Mountain Dew. We've reached 1 billion impressions on social media. But the thing that make us very excited is that we've also given away $2 million worth of scholarships to active students in the last 2 years that are part of this league. So when we talk about just branded integrations, how do we create authentic moments, is actually for us about creating those moments around real communities of people that are looking to be in spaces that they currently aren't, and then creating avenues for them to seamlessly integrate and be a part of those experiences. And what we've learned is that brands or organizations that are willing to tap into the actual ethos that really want to touch the people in our, of course, impressions matter, reach matters, but looking at it as kind of like a secondary KPI and then measuring what is the value of these communities that we're reaching. That is kind of like how we've brought all of our experiences to life this far.
Yeah, thank you. And, I love that all of us up here are, we're focused on creating those meaningful and authentic campaigns. But at the end of the day, it's also about amplifying it. So Felix, you've been amplifying content, doing creator content longer than a lot of us even knew that creator content was a thing. So since, Ryan was talking about some of the brands that he's worked with, what are some tips that you would give to brands and creators who are looking to create campaigns and authentic content in the gaming space?
You don't have to tell everyone how old I am, but I'll take it. At the end of the day, creator content is, so to take one step back, we live in an era maybe on TV, on streaming, not linear TV, but streaming TV, gaming, whatever it is, music of over specialization. In the sense that it's now possible and it's not only possible, it is the mantra to create content for one very specific audience at a time, sometimes two, etc. But the fundamental mistake that is frequently made by brands and organizations that want to enter gaming is to assume that gaming is a singular entity. If you went into music, we talked about this before, I came from music many moons ago, but if you assume that in music your jazz audience is going to be the same audience as your heavy metal audience and your reggae audience, you're not going to have a very good time or very good results. You might make a great festival, but let's see if anyone buys a ticket. And it's similar in the gaming space that there is an abundance of micro communities or mega communities that have their ways of speaking, their tropes, their, memes, everything like that. So it's a hard question to answer in a few minutes because it's a large one. But overall, what we tend to say, and I'm sure everyone here will agree, is to do something that adds value to the audience. A lot of brands got deterred from the gaming space a few years ago because they came in, they bought what we call logo slaps. So putting a name on a jersey or banners, none of that matters. Truly, it may be gaming or marketing or general marketing. All these things are fairly outdated. And they say, well, gaming doesn't work. And that means that's not actually true. The Gen Z audience is incredibly intelligent. And unlike we were as millennials at first, they understand that any creator space relies on the advertiser. As such, the advertisers have to seek to do something that respects their respect and adds value in return. I hope it's not too general of an answer, but it is an important one.
Yeah, thank you. And, to shift the conversation a little bit, because the word monetization is in the title of our panel today, all of us have talked a lot about gaming, and I think that some people may have the misconception that gaming is predominantly virtual, but all of us have experience, and Greg, you and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, about bridging what's happening in virtual gaming space to what's happening in real gaming space. So just as an example of that, one of my company's clients is Chipotle. What we did for National Burrito Day a couple years ago was to create a virtual Chipotle restaurant. We gave away 100,000 Chipotle burrito codes online. And what a lot of people don't realize is the IRL impact of what that virtual space was. So not only did Chipotle give away 100,000 burritos in less than 30 minutes, but what our campaign did was lead to Chipotle's #2 highest mobile sales day of all time and their highest app download day of all time. So you can see that how what you end up doing in the virtual space also connects to what you're doing in the IRL space. And Greg, knowing that your company does both virtual and experiential campaigns, can you talk a little bit more about that? Maybe go over one of the campaigns that was more successful to you that bridged the gap?
Yeah. So, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. One is how important this panel is. This is the most important thing happening in this room right now. If you're a broadcaster, the world is changing. If you go and look at Gen Z, they're interested in gaming. That's where the eyeballs are. That's what moves them. If you're not there, you're a dinosaur. So, and that means both online activations and that means offline. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that, kind of dovetailing into your question. And we have a couple legacy media partners who get it and are learning from us, who are investors in us. But a lot of you guys are just going to, not get it, and that's okay. But the ones who do get it are going to be able to get that next generation of fan, of viewer. And that's the same thing with these offline events. Why people like the Boston Red Sox or the Breakaway Music Festival or the NFL or Dre's nightclub here in Las Vegas have partnerships with Xset where we do live activations, and it's around gaming, right? And so if you're, we got a call from Major League Baseball out of the blue saying, hey, the average age of a baseball fan is 55 years old. The game's long. Kids who game, they don't want to go to baseball games anymore. It's boring. We're losing the next generation of baseball fans. So we said, well, why don't it's going to look different, your new fans, but you guys need to show that you understand gaming, that you're at the forefront of what's going on in these kids' lives, and that their attention spans have changed. So if they go to the park and they want to game a little bit in a gaming lounge and then watch the game and maybe go check in with grandpa every inning, maybe watch for, a half hour with him and then go back, that's actually a good thing. You're not taking away attention from the game. You're bringing people who are going to now pay a little bit of attention to the game that wouldn't have. And so, I remember I had a discussion with an NBA team and they said, well, I was pitching them on this concept, and we want to get paid to do this, by the way. This is not the Red Sox or the NFL coming to us. That's them paying us to do gaming with them because they need our audience and they need our fans. Same way you guys need our audience and need our fans. So, I remember having a discussion with a professional basketball team. They said, we don't want people to have their face in a screen while they should be watching the game. I said, dude, look around at the stands right now at the next game, anytime, and see how many people are in their phone. They're all on screen. So if you don't get their attention on their screen as well as on the game, you're going to lose out. So what that has looked like for us is we've done a number of activations where we mix in real life events, like having gaming lounges at nightclubs. So people can literally pay to have an area where they hang out. It's like a VIP room where they game. Sometimes they can even make it programmatic where our pros or our content creators can come in and game with them, just like you'd have a celebrity DJ. We've done stuff with the Red Sox where we set up a gaming lounge in Fenway Park. We did a official jersey with the Red Sox in Major League Baseball. There was Xset. I got to throw out the first pitch. Did very well. You guys should check it out on IG. Thank God. It was nerve-wracking. Had gamers and professional athletes before and after the game interacting, gaming. We did a home run derby, where our gamer got to stand in the outfield for his home runs and Justin Turner stood at the plate. We still lost, but just a lot of fun stuff like that. We actually now have a partnership with Breakaway Music Festival, which is one of the biggest electronic music festivals in the country. 12 dates. We have an Xset section where there's gaming. The DJs come and game with their fans. We do merch collabs. So the idea that gaming, just as you said, happens just behind the screen is totally not right. And the logo slap thing, of course that didn't work. That's like, hanging something from the ceiling and expecting Phoenix 7 over there to have that be the extent of their marketing. Yes, you can put a logo on a jersey. Yes, you can, and that's some good visibility, but actually understanding the nuance of the culture, understanding that people of all different backgrounds, as Ryan mentioned, black, white, LGBTQ, women, men, they all game. And if you meet them where they game and you meet them where they want to interact in real life, you've got magic from a brand perspective. And that's where the future's headed.
Greg, I'm disappointed I didn't know about your first pitch because I would have played that on the screen for everyone here.
Afterwards, you guys can line up and I'll show you on my IG.
Thank you. So we're talking a lot about the success of these campaigns. Let's talk a little bit about what goes into the planning for a successful campaign. So Ryan, I know you've worked with some great brands such as Verizon and some of the other ones that you mentioned. Can you talk about what it looks like when a brand is approaching your company for the first time? What is the conversation that you have and how do you develop a strategic campaign for your clients?
Yeah, I would say oftentimes the first question that we ask is, what is your why? And like, what are you ultimately trying to achieve and what are you trying to do? Because like we've talked about, gaming being an umbrella term, a lot of brands and agencies at first, they use that term in a very unilateral way. So we ask like, hey, do you want to be in the esports? Do you want to be in culture and lifestyle? Do you want to be a community type organization? So I actually talk about two examples, because Verizon, I think, is like the perfect case study that we try and work with all of our brand partners. So for our gaming league, the HBCU esports league that we run each week on Twitch, Verizon was our first sponsor and advertiser to come be a part of that opportunity. So that means they help contribute to prize pool. We're delivering viewership and impressions against that investment. But where it got really interesting is because a part of what we do also is that we have a community foundation. And so what our foundation does is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're actually working with school systems, Boys and Girls Club, and teaching young Black and brown kids around game design, coding, production, the whole nine. So we then spoke to Verizon because Verizon also has a lot of opportunities around community impact and corporate social responsibility. So Verizon, on our media side, sponsor, advertiser, nonprofit side, their foundation gave us $1 million to actually build physical esports labs at the communities where we are trying to start programs, and then also to create scholarships to help fund young Black and brown students who are about to essentially get kicked out of college because they couldn't pay their tuition. So that is now a 360 story that we're able to tell with the brand, that they're front facing on the marketing effort, but then on the back end, they're actually doing work that's impacting the community. The second example I'll give is what we did last year in 2023 with Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew, when PepsiCo, of course, when George Floyd was murdered, PepsiCo had a 5-year commitment. It was around, I think, $100 million to amplify underrepresented communities. As a part of that, they leaned heavily into gaming. So we did 2 tournaments in 2023 called the Real Change Challenge. That was a total of $1 million for 16 HBCU teams to go head to head in a Call of Duty tournament, and then also to compete in a Mortal Kombat tournament. So it was really interesting. RDC World was a huge part of this campaign. So we had the social implications. So from a social reach standpoint, the campaign did 1.2 billion impressions in 6 months. So Mountain Dew as a brand was extremely happy. We did 9 million views across our Twitch channel. But again, the most important thing from a community lens is that we gave away $1 million to young students. What's crazy is the student that won first place in the Mortal Kombat tournament, he got $45,000. We then asked him, his post-game interview, up on stage, what is he going to do with the money? He's like, literally, my family's raising money because my mom's battling with lupus, and now I have a way to pay her hospital bills. So I was like, for us, it's like, I think gaming, as we look at it, yes, there's live experiences, but there's really stories and there's people's lives that can be impacted with these campaigns, with brand dollars. So our strategy from the gate is telling everyone the holistic experience that includes talent, that includes music, but it also includes actual give back to people that are participating.
Yeah, thank you.
I would just jump in and say, first of all, Ryan's done amazing work. We've done some stuff at XSET, but I think that one of the takeaways that's really important, if you think about it from a broadcasting perspective, you think about it from a media perspective, we are storytellers. We are telling stories. We're not just an advertising platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to lead right into my question for Felix. Ryan, you were talking a lot about community, and a lot of people, when they think about creator content or they think about gaming, they do think, unfortunately, at least in the beginning, about how do I get my logo in there? How do I get a creator to mention, my brand's name X amount of time, But I think that the real focus of creator content and what we're doing is that brands and creators have the opportunity to build community. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of community, especially when it comes to monetization and shifting culture?
Sure. So you give me all the academic questions. Yeah? So
they save the best ones.
Thank you. I left my tweet at home, but I have a nice collection. So, at the end of the day, gaming is, as we said, a succession of communities. the brands that succeed, and we're very proud of the work we've done in the space. We did the first female-focused campaigns in gaming many years ago in America. That was very successful and continues. We did a lot of the work that redefined how an advertisement in gaming is a show, so it's pretty common. But at first, when we say, hey, we're going to do 12 episodes every week of a tournament where the goal is to determine who's going to have to do the laundry, that was pretty funny and exciting back then. But then the idea, and all these brands, maybe the P&Gs of this world, the L'Oreal, the McDonald's, whoever they are, they all have the same goals, is to preserve their brand whilst acquiring new customers. And that means that if you are a top brand in the world, by nature, you have more to lose through marketing than you have to gain. You also realize that Gen Z is the only people, let's ignore Gen Alpha for a second because they're slightly too young, but we can talk about them after. Gen Z is the only people where you have a shot of converting a customer quite actively today and keeping them. So the vast majority of big brand marketing, and I mentioned a few of our clients, starts out as defensive marketing. They want to maintain their market leadership in their position of market leadership. Therefore, their primary goal in gaming is brand safety and community connection. And as gaming is seen as an esoteric space, something they don't necessarily understand fully, they'll have to be walked through the steps of understanding how these tropes and these memes and those community points that we discuss, whilst they might seem foreign, actually are essential and intrinsic to those communities. And that's the points where they can hit on to add value. And I can go on and give hundreds of examples of shows and campaigns that we've done, but it all always comes down to, is this brand adding value? And people will say, oh, let the creator talk, and that's fine too, but create a framework for the content to exist. Realize that there's not an immediate connection between what the brand knows their values are and what the audience needs to understand. And that's what we build on every day, and create very successful 200, 300%, 400% sales increase campaigns because they resonate with those communities.
Thank you. So we just have a few minutes left, so I'll open up this question for anyone on the panel to talk about. But for some of the people in our audience who have not yet tapped into the gaming community, what is their first step? How would they reach out to any of you or to any other company? And what should they be thinking about when they're starting to develop campaigns that target gaming's audience?
Don't put a logo on a jersey.
So I think, you guys have assembled a good panel because the three of us have a pretty good footprint and impact in this world. So any one of us can get you started. I think one of the things I think that's important is, as you take your brand or you take, we've done stuff with Amazon Studios, we've done stuff with MGM, as you take your content or whatever, and you're trying to reach an audience, it's important that you work with a group of people that, one, can sort of translate to you what's going on in gaming in a way that you understand, and gaming culture, really, because it just begins at the gameplay. It is so much bigger than that. It's not something you just plug in. And then I think it's also, you have to be willing to take a little bit of a risk with your brand, because the way you may market or bring your brand into content in other ways doesn't necessarily work in game. But I think, what I really want to impress upon people is how big this is and how little so many people know about it. I mean, I'll just give you an example. We've got one guy named Clicks, who's our biggest star. He's a Fortnite creator. So what he does is he basically plays Fortnite on Twitch, which is a streaming service. He entertains his audience. He talks to his audience. He can do it for 6-7 hours at a time. He'll have 60,000 people concurrently. That's 60,000 people at that time at any given moment watching him stream. It's a massive audience, right? And we can do a lot of things. If you just put a logo at the bottom of his stream, you're losing. What you need to do is look at the essence of who Clicks is, his audience, and do stuff that's really cool, that is very content driven, or even do stuff outside of Twitch on YouTube and on TikTok, contests. We did a meet and greet with Clicks at the premiere of the Beekeeper movie at MGM. We got 1,000 kids to come and see a movie.
The one thing I'd say is that, and it depends, it goes back to what we're just saying, is the risk with the brand is very dependent on the brand position. And I think that a lot of brands get turned off from gaming because they think it's not going to be brand safe, when it actually is perfect, except a few communities or a few elements. It's actually perfectly brand safe. You just have to accept that Gen Z don't communicate the same way that millennials or Gen X do. And that does not mean it's not a brand safe space. What's fantastic for challenger brands is the opportunities to actually completely go crazy and build. But for big brands, they can be in a space that is brand safe by accepting a different communication mechanism and leveraging it.
Yeah, and I think also I'll just jump in too, I don't think that brands and companies need to start off in gaming expecting billions of impressions or billions of players. There are ways that you could start in small. You can integrate into a popular game. We do integrations with a game called Lifetopia. Lifetopia has something like 4.5 billion plays, but what we do is we bring an IP, like we bring in Trolls or, the movie Migration, and we do small little integrations that help to support campaigns for a month at a time. And what that allows brands to do is to come in, get data, see what the experience is like, and use that data in order to formulate what their future forays into the gaming space should be. And Ryan, I think you have something to say too.
I think that just to answer the question, mine answers the same as a little earlier. Is understanding the why, what are the outcomes, and what are you looking to accomplish? And then also I say, because we hear it all the time, if diverse audiences are not a part of the marketing strategy, you're missing a huge mark. That up here we're talking about Twitch and creators. We were missed without saying, like, Twitch, the largest live streaming platform, the most followed person, subscribed person on Twitch is a person of color. But when you look at the top 5 creators when it comes to brand opportunities, he's not in the top 5, but yet he's pulling the largest numbers concurrently on literally Twitch, the global website, is a black man out of Atlanta that is the most followed person. But a lot of times, often brands are missing the mark, or they're uncomfortable of how to authentically work with someone. And that's where we say, like, is a huge value in these new spaces of understanding audience segmentation and really understanding how to reach nuances within these spaces as well. So
yeah, I would totally agree. And just to be clear, X said one of our founding pillars is diversity. And if you look at the roster of people that are on our, both from the staff perspective, a board perspective, and the people who are in front of the camera, in front of the stream, they're all different backgrounds, all different races. I think we probably over-index in black creators. And everyone's doing this. And if you're kind of trying to segment in an old-fashioned way, like a music company, or, hey, this is one demographic or the other, you're missing the fact that on the online, the stars of all different backgrounds, and it's not as simple. It's really about the cultural nuance of the game and what's going on in that gaming specific part of gaming culture. And we're about to get kicked off, so I will end with that. Thank you.
We can obviously talk about this for hours. All 4 of us will be here for a little bit for Q&A, so please come up and say hi. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.